Welcome back. This is the second part of our newspaper review. Keep those tweets coming in at K24 TV. We'll be looking at them in just a bit. Before we took the break, we're on page 5 of the People Daily as 3 CSs snubbed an invite to Parliament. The CSs in question, Fred Matiang'i, Interior, Mutahi Kagwe, Health, and James Macharia, Transport. Kioni, because you're also a chair of a committee, we've seen this happen before. We've seen, especially CS Matiang'i, he snubbed several committee invites due to national security, other meetings that have come up. Are we having a scenario where we have some more equal than others when it comes to oversight?
I don't know whether I want to say. Let me just close the issue of corruption with a good statement that we can see the state is possessing 56 million house from one of the former members of parliament who took it away 20 years ago. So even as the chorus continues between, we can still see some money being, some of those who took our assets, giving them back to the public. On this issue of summoning, I think this one is, as a chair, there's a lot to do with the relationship between yourself and the persons you call before these committees. But bigger than that, there is certainly some work that needs to be done. Just like we've said, there is work that needs to be done between these two offices. There's a lot of work that needs to be done between Parliament and the Executive. There is mutual respect that I personally witnessed from the interactions that I have had with the Executive. And it actually plays out, even when you attend rallies like not even rallies, like when you attend functions like we attended the burial of Moi, President Moi, you can actually see some very bad blood between the Executive and Parliament. And it eventually plays out in this format, which is very unfortunate because as properly captured by, I don't know who, this is the member of Togareni, he said this would have been an opportunity for the CS to allevy, as Kenyans have, explain measures taken by the government, but they refuse to come. These people should be reported. Well, I don't think they should be reported to the Speaker. The chairman has powers to do more than just report them to the Speaker. But they lost an opportunity to tell Kenyans, where are we? What have we done? Should we continue being worried? As we walked into this studio this morning, we were all talking about how should I greet you, what, those are things that are now being discussed at every time and every corner. And this is what the CSS should have come and told Kenyans, we are this safe, we are doing this so that we can be able to be comfortable with what is happening. But they chose not to, because I am saying they chose not to, because if you look at the reasons given, they are not even consistent. Mutahi Kagwe says he is attending the first cabinet meeting. Well, that would have made sense if it was the same cabinet meeting Matiang'i was in. But Matiang'i seems to have been in another committee. In another, sharing, I don't know what they are calling it, National Development, Implementation and Communication Cabinet Committee. Macharia is said to have been attending another Senate, subcommittee. So you can actually see the reasons given are not consistent. They're actually letting themselves out that none of them, they just didn't attend. And they didn't have good reasons not to have attended. Then Amana says, I don't even know where my PS is. Right. Answers that I have not had being given to Parliament before. And certainly, that means that we really need to address, there is a place we dropped the ball. This, when we were doing this 10th Parliament, these are not answers we would have taken from members of the Executive. For reasons including that they were with us in Parliament. And if they behaved this way, we would go to the floor and sanction them in the afternoon. If these meetings were in the morning, we would do it in the afternoon. And every member of the Executive, every cabinet minister was fearful of being a subject in the afternoon. The whole of the ministry of issues were very careful not to expose their ministers. Even the kind of answers that they came with were very well done, prepared, researched on, because the whole ministry would have, all Kenyans would be watching how is the Minister of Internal performing on this particular aspect. So even as I know we have the other topic on BBI, but this, even outside BBI, we need to address ourselves to the system that we have today. where we have this pure presidential system, it's not serving us. I believe that if we had these ministers back into parliament, this kind of behavior, by now we would know where we are on the issues of corona.
When it comes to
Parliament has standing orders that will allow us to adjourn to discuss that issue. And when we do that, the minister would have to be on the floor to tell us what he is doing, not even being summoned by a committee.
That's why I'm asking, Kioni, for the committee for Parliament to actually show its bite on this one, what options do they have? If the CS doesn't show up today, tomorrow he has another function.
One is that the chairman, the committees can be able to fine them up to 500,000 shillings. That is the standing. It's allowed in the Standing Orders and Powers and Privileges Act. Two is that they are now working on the budget. You can actually decide to withhold money from this ministry until the CSs are able to show some better respect for not members of parliament, but to the institution of parliament. Okay. Yes. I don't want to be respected as an MP. I want them to respect that office which I hold. That's all I am.
Do you have a rejoinder to that?
Yeah, I just want to. I have a question from Mheshimiwa. So, if you deny the money in the budget, but the budget foundationally comes to we, the people of Kenya, is it not us who are then being punished by proxy?
When that is, because that is something around by, and it's a practice throughout the Commonwealth world, you do not deny money that is going to, you don't deny money that goes towards the services expected to Kenyans, but you deny them money that the uses for example, you may deny them money that is for tea and such things, for things that affect them as an individual.
So their expenses, the ones that are...
Like ministerial administration expenses.
That is, okay. So you do it responsibly.
Okay. That's a story that I can get, of course, in detail on that particular issue. So on page 5 of your PD, want us to move along to the Daily Nation's front page. It's all about matters BBI. Big test for BBI, no cash for referendum. Policy statement provided only 4.6 billion shillings for the Electoral Commission's operations 2020-2021. Yet, Njoki, there's been a huge cry every single rally about the referendum that will take place. Let's not forget, even in Mombasa, the one thing that Governor Joho was making sure Murkomen would say, are you for or against the referendum? It wasn't a question of if, but when. Yet, when you look at our purse, we look at the country's wallet, we are not in a position to have that right now. So it seems.
I think it's interesting that we've moved. For me, I divide conversations into the idea phase and the logistics phase. If we've reached a place where we're checking our wallets for money for this thing, we're in logistics. It's not an idea anymore. So even this question about whether we're going to have it or not is performance. It's performative. If we've reached the place where we're checking our wallet, if I was at home and I'm asking somebody for money to get something done and they're checking their wallet to see if they have the money, they've already agreed that I need it. They're just checking if they can. Do you see what I mean? We wouldn't have reached the place without this number. Somebody has actually gone and done accounts to see how much money is available. I think there's a river we have crossed without having had the conversation about whether we should have crossed the river or not. So for me, that's odd. I want to say, as regards this general, the rallies, the everything, I think the people are hungry to connect to a state that is acting in their interest, but I worry about the constant peddling of a good future as opposed to solving the problems of the present. So if we are relying on a referendum to vote against or for certain things, because that's what's going to become the issue, not the fact that we are in a difficult economic space. There are problems that are being faced with the implementation of CBC. There are problems as regards healthcare. There are problems as regards quality of life in multiple places. Even with the successes that have been shown by devolution, there are still struggles. There's also struggles as regards how money is reaching the counties and how the money is being used in the counties. And both Waheshimiwa, I'm sure, can speak better to that than I can. This idea that we are constantly reaching into an unknown future for things to be better for Kenyans, as what we sell when we go to have all these rallies and say, because of these rallies, tribalism will end, without exactly understanding the roots of tribalism in this country. And we know them. It's just that there are conversations that are difficult and painful to have, and so we don't have them. So for me, this kind of constant, because it's very unoriginal, the kind of, we have gatherings of people in places, and whether it's being called BBI now, whatever it's called, where we go into the public and then we have people gathered and we tell them the future is going to be better, the future is going to be better. When people are suffering in the now, I think is a model that we're going to have to rethink.
How do we hit the reset and start, solving the now? What would be your take on that? How do we start solving our issues now and then deal with the future when we get there? How do we do that?
I think the Waheshimiwa are here, the elected representatives.
Right.
They can tell us
right.
how we are solving the now, because they ran on a platform
right.
that was future-oriented towards
right.
solving what is now. So they are the people's representatives. Right. They are the ones who should be telling us. Mheshimiwa went and stood and he said, for my people, I'm going to do this, 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 this. Right. So the question about what is being done, because people elected them on the basis of, they said they were going to do.
Right.
So that is the now. So what are they doing? If they're not doing, why can't they do it?
Right.
And how can the people help them in that journey?
Okay.
That is the question that I would be asking.
Let me jump to Mheshimiwa, who's here on that.
Caleb
is here. Let me come to you, because we've had statements from the Parliamentary Budget Office talking about how our debt obligations are completely through the roof. They had warned against extension of the debt ceiling. We look at the policy statement as of now. Big expense in terms of salary and wages, that's the first one. Second one, it's our debt servicing. Should we be thinking about looking for money for a referendum right now? Is that what we need?
I don't think we are looking for money for referendum. I don't know where you've gotten that.
If the referendum is going to be happening, we don't have the money for that.
Yeah, but you see, BBI is not equal to referendum. I mean, that is just views and ideas from politicians. It does not mean that was an intent of the BBI. BBI is now a collection of views from Kenyans. And some of those things that needs to be implemented, it may not necessarily need a referendum. You may do it maybe by parliamentary means or maybe a matter of a policy. And in fact, some of those things have already been implemented. When we even changed the MOID, the 26th December, and we called it to Tamaduni Day. That was the views that are raised in BBI. Right. And remember, you see, the whole nations agree that yes, we needed it. I have not found anybody opposing. Even the members of Tanga, they say we only differ in the way it is being taken, rallies, but we all agree that it was necessary. That this country, countries have gone to war to be where we are at the BBI. I mean, countries have fought for them to actually come together and talk to each other. So we've come here without fighting. We've come here talking to our nations, having a national discourse where people have gone wrong. You've seen the Maasais complaining. The people are talking from their heart. They want to see we've faced discrimination before. We want going forward. We want our issues to be included. You will see now Nakuru, the Kalenjins have their own issues. Every region has their own issues. The western region, like that. So I think to equate BBI to a referendum, it is not really the intent of that. And and remember, it keeps on giving Kenyans the wrong impression about the whole thing. And even if we had a referendum, when a country has agreed towards a common goal, really, unless maybe it's just a matter of legal, but we really do not even need it. If we all agree as a country, if there is a loophole in the constitution, in my view, we shouldn't waste money in an idea where everyone agrees. Right. We must find a way of implementing the idea, and then without necessarily wasting more money into putting into a referendum or even very costly campaigns again, when we are just 2 years, to the next election. So, and with the way you've said that we are grappling with the high cost of living, we are grappling with a budget that we cannot, sustain. We have loans all over. So I think money for a referendum should not be a topic of discussion. Right. We should not even go there.
Okay, let me come to Kioni as well, because as we got into 2020, there was still some uncertainty concerning this particular referendum, whether it will happen or not. Enter Senator Orengo. He said that this referendum is going to happen. He was very certain about that. Even gave a timeline as to between June, July, that's when we'll see it happen. And then from there, this referendum talk got steam. We went to Mombasa. It became more, and the cry for this referendum became louder. So even as we say it's not necessarily the same thing, BBI and the referendum, the more we talk about it, the more it seems that we're going there. But then again, when you go to Treasury, it's not the option. You've given an option of having it at the end as we have our elections. Is that something that they are open to, you at the BBI rally in Meru?
Well, I was at the BBI rally in Meru, and it was a very nice rally. It went on very well. There are people who think others walked out, but I think when you organize those kind of functions, you can't keep people there until 4. You'd expect them to leave. I also left a little bit early, not because I walked out, but I thought it was fatiguing up to a given point. And it is important that when we organize them, even similar rallies, that is in our minds. But crucial, let me say that our 2010 constitution, we seem to have missed one of the key things about it. It was really a negotiated process. We started it long time before many people who are now actively involved in the management of it were even born. And it's a process we continued negotiating until we got a document on the table. It did not mean that the negotiation stopped. It talks about public participation, talking with one another every time you want to do something. And I really want to associate myself with the sentiments of Mheshimiwa Karem completely and totally. The issue of agreeing on what do we do when we get to this corner is something that Kenyans must get used to. And it's the proper route that we chose. Because before, other countries have actually gone to war to just do what we are doing, just like Kareba said it. So the fact that we are now able to talk to one another, with one another, perhaps the style may be a little, we may have maybe hyped it too much. But it is a good thing that we are able to talk about the issues that ail us. Well, Orekina goes and says it the way he thinks he should say it. And he's told by Kenyans, we've moved. Don't talk to us that way. It's a very good thing. As to whether we should expect others to talk 2027, 2032, they must continue talking. If they don't talk to one another, it will be very bad. Our constitution calls for people to continue talking because of the issues that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Two is that when you talk about BBI, again, look at the document. You are looking at maybe 2 or 3, 4 things that will require constitutional amendment through a referendum. All these other issues are issues that will require policy. They will need amendment to laws within Parliament. It's a thing we do every day. They will need perhaps new acts of Parliament passed. And there are even some constitutional amendment that can be done within Parliament without going for a referendum. Of course, again, as I said, it's a question of trust. There is some relationship between Parliament and the executive, or even the BBI initiative is a little rocky. There isn't a lot of trust that perhaps what Kenyans want done will pass through Parliament. That's something that needs to be addressed, and then we may not need to incur the kind of money that those who want to do it outside Parliament will have to look for. Okay. So I think BBI it's a good thing. There are many things. When we had it before we went to Meru, we had small break-up meetings in the counties, and we had one in Nyandarua. And you could hear the people of Nyandarua have an opportunity to speak to the issues that have always given them problem. A very good thing. And they'll go back home saying, at least we've said it. The issue is a question, did you hear it? And I think we need now to agree among ourselves. There is what we call the popular initiative. That is going to the people through a very expensive process, the referendum and the rest. Or do you want to do it through the parliamentary process? Again, fine, we may end up with the referendum on 1 or 2, 3 issues. And do we want to do it 2022? Remember, we still have that amendment on the table. It's still going through the mills, where we are saying any future referendum must be done together with the election, so that we don't need to do these budgetary allocations outside or within the 5 years, every 5 years. Okay. Because again, as I finish, it's not very useful to get ourselves into this kind of a scenario within every 5 years. Every time we are amending the constitution with these huge rallies, they move us away from developing the country. And there are those of us who have been in constitutional amendment campaigns and we've made our political career from just talking about the Constitution. And we don't want others to go on in the other life. We want to take them back to the same place all the time.
Joki, a question or comment on that?
Actually, it's a comment, and it has to do with the things that both the Waheshimiwa have said, which has actually made me realize that I've bought into the myself, and I want to confess it here and to recalibrate my thinking, that we have this either-or Kenya. And so, for instance, I've just opened, I think this is The Nation, and it's on page 24, and there's a beautiful layout about what's happening at Narok County Referral Hospital. There's an ICU wing at Narok County Referral. These are things that we could never have spoken about before devolution. Never. This would never have happened. There's beautiful statements here about the number of referrals that were life-saving, and that most of them were done inside the county. And so when you read a thing like that, you start realizing that the counties are here figuring out how to solve their problems. It may be happening slowly. Maybe there are people who fell outside this, and for sure there are, but things are moving. And so as regards this thing of we looked into our wallet and we found that there was no money for a referendum, perhaps that conversation is jumping the gun. But then at the same time, it's possible for us to do everything. So people can go around the country and have rallies about Kenyans figuring out how to get along. And the Waheshimiwa are right when they say that other people have gone through very violent paths to get to where we are now, and that we do have very difficult things to talk about, and that these difficult things are going to have to be said, and we're going to have quite a number of difficult headlines, difficult conversations, because the thing that we're asking for is honesty. If we all came and pretended that we're getting along, then we would all discover at a very inopportune time that that's not what was happening. And so it is possible to get everything done. It is possible to have these rallies, but at the same time, we have to have statements like this from Narok County, statements like this from the other 46 counties, and from national government about what Kenyans are getting in the present and in the now. So we can plan responsibly for a good future while taking care of Kenyans now. It is both and. It is not either or. And as regards our debts, perhaps it's possible. Perhaps it's possible that we can do small installments, we can pay towards this, and that if there are ways that we can have some of these electoral processes responsibly and in a way that realizes where we are and where our coffers are as a nation, then that's definitely the way to go.
Okay, we are almost on to our second break, but I want to quickly go to Caleb on this, because even as we talk about the BBI rallies and the BBI as a whole, it's a political process. Politicians have jumped in as well. With the cancellation of the BBI stop in Eldoret, lots of questions had been asked there. Elgeyo Marakwet Governor Alex Tolgos was talking about it as well. They said it would be cancelled. Some sources are saying that the likelihood of chaos led to the decision to have only one forum in the region. That's the one that's going to be on the 21st of March. What happens in this particular scenario? Because some people are saying now they feel left out. They're not part of. They've gone to every other place, but they're not coming to Eldoret. Why us? Yeah,
of course they were not supposed to go to every town. I mean, they had a regional meeting, and remember, we could have asked even us that you have one in Kitale, and every town will be asking for one. But I think, and even the postponement of the dates has been common. So the cancellation of Eldoret, I mean, it's not something new, because maybe the ideas of Rift Valley can be, culminated into Nakuru rally, and it all touches on all the regions of Rift Valley, or all the counties. So we can't find maybe something different from Eldoret that will be different from Nakuru. Maybe the factors facing the farmers and the agricultural sector is the same. So why will you have two rallies? I mean, so that's, I think, in my view, what informed their change of mind, that let's just have one, instead of two that are almost duplicating each other.
Understandably.
And you've seen before, it has been changed before, even in Eastern. It was supposed to be in Machakos, but they said to be in Kitui. And in other regions, even in Nyanza, it went to Kisii instead of Kisumu and all that. So I think it's not something also, newspaper just normally wants to sell newspapers.
And I'm sure from a political angle, you can understand why people are asking Eldoret, that being a key place as far as the DP is concerned in this particular issue. And it has come up. And that's why it's the elephant in the room. Nobody might address it now, but it might come up in Nakuru. What's your take on that?
But you see, Nakuru is also a big town in Rift Valley. Nakuru is not, unless maybe they had gone to Bomet, and you'll ask why will you go to Bomet and Isamoto. But Nakuru is a big town, is a center of activities in Rift Valley. So, I mean, they have all the reasons to condense everything into one town. And I think, again, we are also reading too much in everything.
Right.
That we are just so apprehensive a country, that everything that happens, we want to, to read too much into it. It is just a normal cancellation, and they have a reasons. I think, in my view, they should also have more of a town hall meeting for the residents of Eldoret, because being a key town, you also expect them, they have their own views and they want to be included. So even if you not have a rally, but at least a town hall meeting for the leaders to, you saw last time when we had farmers pointing fingers at leaders directly, that you, in particular, you've let us down. So you can imagine what else they have.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to come to Honorable Kioni.
Even the one for Nyeri is off,
Yeah.
and town hall meetings suffice,
going on.
because we don't expect anything new other than just that rally in Nyeri.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear anything new from what we had in Meru.
The issues will be the same.
Yes, even that one of Nyeri is off.
Okay, okay, fine.
It has nothing to do with Eldoret. It is really, how do you manage? Because also cost. The whole of the security apparatus are mobilized to make, so it's an expensive thing.
Okay, we'll take a short break at that particular point. We'll take your views as well at K24 TV. When you come back after the break, they start talking about lawyers, politicians probed over Somalia. Speaker rules that the 11 MPs who met President Farmajo did not break the law. But what does that mean as we move forward in terms of that particular process? There's also some insecurity in the northeastern part of Kenya. We talk about that after the break.